Grounded is one of the most iconic survival games ever made. It came out in early 2020 on Early Access and has sold over 15 million copies and is now fully released. And the game perfectly combines the terrifying exploration of the vast world and the satisfying survival and crafting aspect. And it's definitely one of the must-play for any survival game enjoyer. But what makes the game so good? And should you buy it? Let's find out. So Grounded is a very unique survival game, developed by Obsidian Entertainment, that literally scales down the world to the backyard and transport the player to a world reminiscent of the film Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And the world is quite frankly an everyday backyard, turning into a sprawling, fascinating wilderness. Blades of grass tower over you like trees, and what might be a simple garden decoration becomes a significant landmark. And the game has taken something so mundane as a backyard and turned it into something completely alien and thrilling. And since the initial launch in 2020, the game has seen regular updates and improvements, with the developer taking on board community feedback to refine gameplay elements, add new features, and enhance the overall player experience. And the game has grown from a basic survival game to a detailed and expansive world teeming with life and adventure. And one of the most captivating features of Grounded is the sense of scale. Seeing spiders and other insects as intimidating behemoths really adds a unique twist to the survival genre. Plus, the fact that it combines with this unique setting with a solid survival gameplay loop makes it more than just a novelty. There's really depth to the gameplay here, and that keeps players coming back for more and more. Now, the core gameplay loop of Grounded caters to players who enjoy crafting, exploration, and base building, while also dealing with environmental hazards in the form of backyard's local wildlife. And a typical gameplay session might involve waking up in your tiny shelter, gathering resources like grass blades and pebbles, crafting tools and structures, and then venturing out to complete quests or simply explore. You could be dodging spiders, fighting off hostile insects, or diving into underwater tunnels. And the skill of the world brings an entire fresh perspective to these activities. The game also provides an extensive crafting system. Starting with really rudimentary tools like pebble axes and woven fiber bandages, you will gradually unlock more advanced items such as insect-based armors, multi-story bases, and much more. And the core gameplay mechanics of Grounded involve crafting, combat, exploration, and survival against the elements. And that is in this case hungry insects. The game also features an RPG-like progression system that is tied to exploration and crafting. The early game will have you struggling with basic tools and avoiding larger insects, while the later game will have you decked out in armor made from vanquished predators, taking on the toughest challenges the game can throw at you. And there's a real sense of growth as you become more familiar with the tiny world. And while the storyline isn't the biggest reason to play the game, it does offer enough motivation and keep you intrigued as to why you're trying to survive in this crazy world. And speaking of the map, Grounded's backyard is a sizable open world full of diverse biomes, each with their own inhabitants and resources. And exploration is essential for progression, with new areas providing new crafting materials, challenges, and bits of environmental storytelling. Now, Grounded is a survival game, which inherently means it is not going to hold your hand, and it can be quite challenging for new players, especially if you're new to survival games overall. For example, resources are not infinite, and each expedition of your base could lead to confrontation with dangerous insects, or you could get completely lost. With that being said, it's probably one of the easier survival games to get into compared to some of the more hardcore games like Subnautica, but the game is also designed around a trial and error focus, and you are highly encouraged to experiment with different tools, strategies, and base locations to find what works the best for you. For instance, you might find a certain insect too tough to handle until you discover its weakness or design a better weapon. And I'd highly recommend playing without the use of guides or tutorials, as this will allow you to discover the mechanics and secrets organically, which is a much better way of doing it. The game also features multiple different game modes. You have mild, medium, wow, and creative, which is basically the game's way of saying easy, medium, hard. So you do have some options to choose an easier game mode if you so desire. If you find this helpful, a like on the video helps a ton with the YouTube algorithm, and I'd really appreciate the support. Now, when you first start up the game, there's an immediate sense of wonder mixed with trepidation. You are thrown into this enormous backyard with just a few basic tools and no real direction, leaving you to figure things out. And the thrill of discovery and the fear of the unknown balance each other out beautifully. Various dangers lurk around every corner, from hostile insects like mites and beetles to environmental hazards like spider webs that can trap you. Not to mention, you must deal with hunger, thirst, and fatigue by securing sources of water, food, and shelter. And the common ground is also a bit more involved than your average survival game. Each insect behaves differently and presents unique challenges, and you have to figure out what weapons and strategy work for different kinds of enemies you encounter. The game also has a massive building system, which employs a tactical and intuitive mechanic that allows players to create impressive custom structures with relative ease. And it actually has a really cool blueprint design that allows you to plan out your entire base before even starting to gather resources. And you can freely adjust and rearrange your planned structures as you see fit. And the variety in building recipes is also fairly extensive, catering to various styles of gameplay. There are simple utilities like storage baskets and sleeping bags, and you also have defensive structures like walls and spike traps, and even complex components like stairs and roofs for multi-story building. And more building recipes have been added over the years. Now, Grounded's crafting system system shares the core mechanics of many survival games. Collect resources from the environment and defeated enemies, and then use those resources to create new tools, weapon, armor, and other items. However, there is one feature that sets itself apart from other games. That is the analysis mechanic. By analyzing different resources at a field station, you can unlock new crafting recipes. This feature adds a new layer of discovery and progression to crafting, encouraging exploration and interacting with the environment. And the crafting system starts off relatively easy and simple at first, and then as you analyze more materials and you defeat stronger enemies, you'll continue to unlock more powerful recipes and crafting items. One of the best features about Grounded is the multiplayer. The game is hands down just way more fun with other people. And you can play up to 4 players, where you can share resources, building a base, and tackling the game's challenges as a team. And not only does this lead to high efficiency, as you can divide and conquer. For example, one player might focus on gathering food and water, while another specializes in base building, and another player tackled combat and exploration. But it's also just a lot more fun, and the game truly provides a delightful and engaging co-op experience that is rare in this genre. Now, as of making this video, the game is out on full release after being early access for about 2 years, and the game cost about $40 on Steam. But considering the game's depth of gameplay, the regular addition of new content, and the quality of a player's experience, this is definitely a fair price that gives players a lot of value for their money, with potential for hundreds of hours of gameplay and exploration. Now, Grounded's graphics are a mix of realistic and stylized elements, resulting in a really unique and visually stunning game. The world is incredibly detailed, capturing the essence of a suburban backyard from the perspective of a shrunken human. The lush vegetation, towering blades of grass, and large droplets of dew contribute to a sense of scale that is both awe-inspiring and occasionally terrifying. And the design of insects, both friendly and hostile, is intricately detailed, making them feel alive and part of a living, breathing ecosystem. And the sound design is also truly remarkable. The atmospheric sound of nature, like the rustling of leaves and the chirping of birds, are all incredibly realistic. Then you also have the music that subtly sets the mood, growing tense and dramatic during combat, while maintaining a peaceful ambience during exploration and crafting. And these sounds and the music work together to immerse the player fully into this tiny yet vast world. And then the immersion is further enhanced by the combination of sound, graphic, and gameplay. And there's a true sense of wonder and excitement as you explore this backyard, uncovering its secret and encountering its various inhabitants. And every decision matters, crafting an immersive experience where you feel truly like a small survivor in a giant world. So with all that being said, what are the pros and cons of the game? The first pro is definitely the immersive environment, and the game offers an incredibly unique and immersive environment that feels fresh and innovative in the survival genre. The game's setting in a suburban backyard from the perspective of a shrunken human is beautifully realized. And next pro is the engaging gameplay. The game has a surprisingly solid gameplay loop that offers the thrill of exploration, the satisfaction of crafting and building, and then also the tension of combat and survival. And the game mechanics are actually really well designed and engaging, with a good balance between risk and reward. And next pro is definitely the multiplayer mode. It is a huge plus, offering so much fun. Whether it's building up a fortress together or tackling really challenging insects, the game gets so much better with friends. And there's nothing more entertaining than watching your friend get chased by a spider, but there's also nothing more terrifying than when the spider suddenly turns towards you. And now for the cons. The first con is the performance issues. There are still quite a few occasional bugs, and I don't mean the insect kind, and overall performance issues. Although a lot of them have been fixed since their early release in 2020, you will still encounter quite a few of them, but they aren't as game breaking as they used to be. The next con is the difficulty spikes. Now, the game does offer various difficulty settings, but there are definitely spikes in the game's challenge. Newer players to survivor games can find the game quite challenging, especially when it comes to the combat with larger insects, and new players might need more time to get used to the mechanics. So while the game offers a really unique and immersive survival experience, you should be aware of the occasional technical issues and the potential challenging gameplay. And now for our favorite part of the video, we're going to grade the game. So the first thing grading on is the gameplay. And Grounded offers a really unique spin to the survivor genre, with its tiny perspective making everyday backyard scenario into a thrilling adventure. And here I give the game an 8 out of 10. And the combination of exploration, crafting, and combat really creates an engaging gameplay loop. And next thing grading on is the graphics, sound, and immersion. And the game's graphics are detailed and colorful, turning even mundane environments into fascinating landscapes. And here I actually give it a 9 out of 10. The game's sound design, with rustling grass and the bustling of insects, adds to a whole new level of immersion. The sensation of being a small person in a giant world is convincingly conveyed, making it really easy to lose yourself in the game world. And the final thing we're grading on is the replayability and progression. The game offers some really unique RPG-like features, and this combined with the crafting and building mechanics, it offers some really unique progression and development, giving you a real sense of satisfaction and progression. And here I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now, while the game does not have the same amount of replayability, like Minecraft for instance, it does offer more than enough for a few playthroughs, and you could easily get quite a few hundred hours of game time in it. So the overall grade of Grounded is an 8.5 out of 10, and the game offers a really refreshing refreshing take on survival genre with a unique setting and perspective, and the game provides a sense of immersion that is rare seen in video games. And along with really solid gameplay mechanics and high replayability value, its challenging mechanics and dynamic environment can provide a really satisfying experience for players who enjoy a good survival game. So whether if you played the game back in 2020 early access or you haven't played it at all, the game is definitely worth playing now, as it has seen multiple updates since release, and it's definitely one of the best and most unique survival games out there, and I'd highly recommend everyone to play it. But what do you think? Do you think it's worth it? Leave a comment down below and let us know. And as always, a like on the video is much appreciated, as it really helps out the YouTube algorithm, so thank you so much for doing that. Also check out the rest of the channel for more game reviews, and I think you really enjoyed the videos on the screen now, so check those out and I'll see you there.